It is Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was yet another non-virtual get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Wednesday. Doing a little bit of armbar action today. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I do miss getting people in arm bars, and it was an interesting variant though. We were doing me and my partner we're doing a variant from the where we were starting off where we already had the arm, but you're reaching way over and grabbing your own hip. Basically, or around there, and we did it both ways. One with the arm going towards our opponent's waist, and then the other way too. And I don't know, I liked both entries myself, and we did a little bit of live stuff, just holding the position or trying to close out the armbar, and I think I was able to do it 2 or 3 times, and while I prevented my teammate from getting more than, I think he got 2 on me, but it was funny because the last one that he did was just perfect, because we were doing this variant if your opponent has their hands gripped together to a way to break that. And you know what? I really wish that I'd been working this particular way of getting the arm free a lot earlier, because I think I would have closed out a hell of a lot more arm bars. Because the way you do it is to bring one of your feet over the arm and figure forward over it. And I mean, it's very painful for the person whose arm you have, But like I said, the very last one he did it fucking perfect, and I told him what it seemed to make the difference, and what it was is there's a part where you're still seated upright, and the last one that he did, he was still seated upright, and he brought his foot up and kicked the arm off as he was coming down into the arm bar. And like I said, that was the one time that he lined it up like that. Previously he was either trying to lean back first and then get the leg over, or something where he wasn't able to put the pressure correctly on my forearm to get me to let go. But like I said, that last one, he just fucking got it perfect. And so I'm like, okay, that's the model that I'm working for now. Where I'm wanting to hook around my opponent's hamstring and bring my ear right up to their thigh, or the top of their thigh there, and just bring the leg over, and then put my leg over my foot, and just crush that arm off of there if needed. It doesn't, the way that he did it that one time, he didn't need to do the figure 4 over it. It was perfect, where he put just enough pressure on it as he was leaning back, and it popped my arm free. I couldn't hold on to it. So yeah, like I said, I think that that's a way to get that arm bar that I really wish I had been working before. Because I know I've been in that spot 20, 30 times where I had my armbar set up and I'm fighting my opponent for that arm, and I'm wearing myself out trying to get that arm. And so, it's having that additional little tool there. Although I did kind of get him in a weird position with regard to the armbar, where I had hooked my foot up under his chin, and I was just extending it out, and he tapped. It was if that was one of those positions where if I had been really yanking hard, I probably could have hurt him, and I'm glad that I wasn't. I was nice and controlled and considerate, and there was a bump here and there, but I mean, come on. We're talking about jiu-jitsu. You got me a couple times too, so, it's not exactly a quote-unquote default safe kind of activity. So, but all told, I had a really good workout, and I think I'm starting to get that body memory back a little bit. I mean, I can I'm like, I don't feel it yet. It's like when I was just ending last time, the very last fucking class that I did, man, I was just on fire. I think I got like 4 subs, and I prevented my opponents from getting me, and it was all told, it was a really good workout. As far as like how my jiu-jitsu felt, and I've been doing singles drills for like 4 months, and so just being able to work with a partner has been, it's really interesting to see how much you lose. I mean, I would notice it after like 3 or 4 days, but I mean, you go 3 or 4 months, and you don't have a vocabulary for it anymore. It's like I can calm my feet to adjust to certain angles and whatnot, but doing that, like remembering to do that when you have a live opponent who's, trying to get your arm, trying to get your leg, trying to get your neck, trying to get you in a body triangle, I mean, it's a whole different thing, and I know that because I was really, really close to getting to some sort of peak, at the end, that, barring any additional disruptions, I think it should only take me a couple months tops to be getting back to that point that I was at. And so yeah, all I can do is push forward. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm thinking tonight I'll probably do my weight routine. It's been a day or two since I've done that, and I'm feeling kind of wimpy. Definitely gonna have to lift some weights. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And as far as where we're gonna start off, we're gonna be playing Body Count, but what song? Too many good ones. Especially now that they got Carnivore out. Now, that's it. Carnivore, First Dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was Skindred with Nobody. And so, as far as what else we're going to get into today, or what we're going to get into today, because we haven't got into anything yet, I just came across this one. And it's always like one of those things that just something hops out to me, and I got to cover it. And but I've found this one, and I want to cover it specifically because I consider Venezuela to be like the test bed for everything crypto. Where when we see things panning out with regard to the relationship between governments and cryptocurrencies, a few of the government entities out there, or governments out there, are a little bit further ahead in their evolution and how they're dealing with it. And most of them just blather, especially with regard to like the U.S. government, they just blather. And really that's the best that they can do at this point. Now, there are some people that believe that will change. Personally, I don't. I believe what's more likely is that governments themselves are going to start investing in cryptocurrencies. Not just owning them, but also mining them. And I believe that this in itself is going to create a new dynamic as far as a monetary regime out there. That people like you and me will create new currencies, and governments will decide, just like you or I, how they will best devote their resources, their available resources, to mining. Whether they want to mine your coin or somebody else's coin. But for the moment, I expect that governments are going to start holding cryptocurrencies, as an investment hedge, especially against their liabilities out in the fiat markets. But the way that will eventually express, I'm not entirely certain. I will say this: altcoins, if Bitcoin does become adopted in the way that I'm talking about, which I believe is an eventuality. It's eventual that governments are going to start up either their own mining pools or global mining pools that people all over the planet will be able to invest in mining in. And I think this is one of the things that is so, it seems like it's underlooked, it's undervalued. How it would change the monetary relationship between us and everybody else. There's going to be adversarial actors and whatnot, but on the other side of that, we're going to have these really secure networks that we're going to be able to pin all kinds of shit on. That we already have the networks, we already have the stuff, we're already pinning it on the stuff. I'm just saying that the eventual inclusion of government in not anything more than just being an average user. And I know that sounds like really weird, but it would be their demonstration of confidence in the people. And again, there's going to be adversarial actors because there's we're going to be putting more at stake. But at the same time, I believe that what it would do to finance in general is revolutionary. That we would be eliminating a lot of the gatekeepers whose mere existence, mere presence in the market, creates the necessity for regulatory frameworks and whatnot, just because of the volume of trust that they're asking of the people that they're serving. But anyway, as I said, Venezuela, I believe that they are kind of a test bed, and this little move right here I think is really interesting because it demonstrates that they're willing to take payments in cryptocurrencies directly, and that's a whole different gambit here. Anyway, so here it is. This is on decrypt.co. Venezuela tests Bitcoin payments for some passports. And this is by Jose Antonio Lons. So yes, penis. Venezuela's government appears to be testing its ability to accept Bitcoin as a payment for the issuance of passports and other official paperwork for citizens who reside outside the country. Though the government of Nicolas Maduro has not issued an official statement on the matter, the option to pay in Bitcoin may be a response to recent difficulties that Venezuela has experienced in processing cross-border payments. This has been especially challenging for any official state business due to the unilateral economic sanctions that the U.S. government has imposed against Venezuela. Rumors of the BTC payment option for passports first arose late last night, particularly on Reddit. User Iguano8 or 80 shared a photograph with the r/Bitcoin subreddit of the same passport payment processing service, which displayed Bitcoin as a payment option. Payment by credit card is temporarily suspended due to the effects of the sanctions. Now let's see, the tweet says, it's not actually in a language I can understand, so never mind. Very interesting. It does actually show Bitcoin is an option while it still has visas, I think it's coming soon. Yeah, there it is, coming soon. Earlier today, however, Venezuela's Sunacrypt press chief, Mirabilis Linares said via Twitter that the Bitcoin payment option is not in fact, quote, functional, and denied reports of the service as false. Linares was responding to a report from Latin America crypto site Crypto Noticias, which was able to verify the option by requesting a passport via the Venezuelan consulate in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Decrypt, however, was unable to confirm this using a Brazilian application, suggesting that the option was not available to all prospective applicants. For example, the option did not appear to be available to anyone within Venezuela, in which case the only acceptable payments are still bolivars, the official state fiat currency, and petros, the state-backed cryptocurrency. Nevertheless, several users in various countries confirmed via social media that the BTC payment option appeared on the SAIME website this morning. Since then, however, the payment option has been blocked. This combined with Linares' statements on Twitter suggesting Venezuela's government may have simply been running a test. Cryptocurrency adoption in Venezuela has gradually become a political strategy by the Maduro government as a way to circumvent the effects of economic sanctions. The Venezuelan government has already enabled payments for for various public services, including paying for gasoline. Venezuela's National Public Bank is also adapting its infrastructure to include cryptocurrency services, and Maduro's government recently admitted storing Bitcoin and Ethereum as part of its international reserves. As sanctions intensify and economic warfare between rival nations heats up, it appears that cryptocurrency, including Bitcoin, may become a last line of defense, for better or for worse. I don't think it's going to be limited to Bitcoin either. I think that this progression is only natural, and if Maduro doesn't adopt it himself, his people are simply going to decouple. And this progression, like I said, I've noted it multiple times on this show. It's happened multiple times already. It's going to continue to happen. And it is because there is no service that a government can provide that's going to be cheaper than Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. Even with higher fees, the lack of additional friction on whatever commerce you're doing will make it cheaper over the long term to simply decouple. You know, it's like if you're paying any kind of excise tax on what you're making or what you're selling or what, no more. You can cancel all that shit out. And I know that sounds really threatening to some government individuals and all that, but you know what? The fact of the matter is if those government agencies, the people that are sitting in those posh little offices in their wonderful little leather chairs at their 30-inch fucking monitor and their kick-ass pewter and their laptop and their tablet that they get to take off site and work from home occasionally, all that shit costs money. All of it costs money that doesn't necessarily need to be spent. And in manufacturing and production terms, we call that an inefficiency. That's something that is eating up a bunch of ROI, return on investment. So you got to cut that out. You know, you got to streamline it. You know, I talked about that before on this show that, you know, when I was first indoctrinated into the ideals of statistical process control, it only took me about, I want to say about an hour, maybe 2 hours after fully grasping exactly what was going on with statistical process control, and I started thinking about it, and it's like, you know, if you implement this to the fullest extent as a continuous process, eventually you're going to get to the point where you're having to look up the chain. Not your inefficiencies don't begin and end with your manufacturing processes. Oh, no. There's several other inefficiencies in between. You could have vendors that aren't on time with their shit. You could have vendors that are gouging you on the supplies that you're purchasing from them. Maybe there's a relationship with them as some sort of kickback to somebody in upper management or some shit like that. All of that exists. And it's all inefficiencies. So when you start cutting those out, eventually you're going to end up in a position where you don't have any real incentive to draw people up from the base of the pyramid up to where you're at. There's just not enough linkages in between. And you end up with highly specialized departments that you either have to import previously trained individuals, or you have to train people to occupy. It's always cheaper to just import people. But that creates security issues that you may or may not face later on. And so it's a big circle jerk when you think about the length that you want to go to in reducing your expenses and maximizing your return on investment. There is a point when you kind of you make it not profitable by taking out too much of your customer base, so on and so forth. Or like I said, you don't have a real linkage between the person that just comes into the door of your organization as a basic manufacturing technician or even a maintenance individual and working their way up. If you don't have those linkages in between, if you don't have the organic laddering, where somebody wants to get up to your position, from that base position. If you don't have that in there, and you're not seeing the people that are working for you aren't seeing a progression where people are moving up that ladder, there's just no incentive. You just take all the incentive out of working for you. But anyway, I got this thing here, and it was a link off of that previous article, and I remembered reading about this. And this is a trend that we are going to see in other nations. We are going to see, if they aren't already, we are going to see governments investing directly into crypto, and for exactly this purpose. Here it is. This is on decrypt.co. Venezuela's central bank holding Bitcoin is just crazy enough to work. And again, this is by Jose Lons. And this one was authored on September 26, 2019. So it's a little bit older. But anyway, we're going to go for it anyway. Venezuela's dreams of becoming a crypto nation evidently extend beyond just the state-backed petro. Earlier today, Bloomberg reported that Venezuela's central bank could soon be holding an undisclosed amount of Bitcoin and Ethereum as part of its international reserves. According to Bloomberg's unnamed sources, the country's national oil company and primary source of revenue, Petróleos de Venezuela, is exploring ways to send Bitcoin and Ethereum to the central bank so that the state-owned firm can pay its monetary obligations to international suppliers. It's an idea that's just crazy enough to work. As a practical matter, unlike President Nicolas Maduro's prized cryptocurrency, the Petro, Bitcoin has global acceptance, and Ethereum is the most important altcoin in the global market. It would be relatively easy for anyone to take a payment made in either crypto and immediately convert it to a fiat currency. What's more, Venezuela has some of the cheapest electricity in the world, as well as one of Latin America's most powerful hydroelectric generators. It is reasonable then to think that Maduro's government could have undisclosed Bitcoin and Ethereum mining farms in the country, despite the deficiencies in the country's energy grid. On the other hand, using Bitcoin and Ethereum to facilitate international trades would not be so easy. In order to convert those tokens to fiat, anyone willing to trade with Venezuela would have to comply with the KYC policies set by an exchange or OTC desk, which in many cases are subject to the laws of the United States or other countries influenced by U.S. policies. Actually, they could fully circumvent any such agencies. Continuing on. This would be a problem for Maduro's government considering that expanded sanctions Venezuela currently faces. If Venezuela has Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other cryptocurrency, the government is obliged or obligated to disclose that information to the National Assembly or the National Constituent Assembly so that the public won't get an official answer to this until January 2020 at the earliest. Until then, we should expect Maduro's government to keep it as confidential as possible in order to avoid any potential countermeasures from its opposition. What does Venezuelan law have to say about it? Besides using crypto as payment, Bloomberg reported that, quote, staffers are also studying proposals that would allow cryptocurrencies to be counted towards international reserves, now near a 3-decade low at $7.9 billion. This means that the country is, supposedly, also using Bitcoin as a store of value. This too is technically and legally possible thanks to recent regulatory changes. Venezuelan legal experts told Decrypt that the country has been working on laying the legal foundation for exactly this sort of scenario for some time. Quote, this is perfectly possible and is already legally shielded with the Constituent Decree of April 9, 2018, Ernesto Portillo, a Venezuelan lawyer and co-founder of CryptoJuris Venezuela, told Decrypt, quote, Article 9 of that decree stipulates that the Venezuelan government shall promote and may establish cryptocurrencies as an instrument of payment. The missing step, according to Portillo, is to set out the agreements in applicable contracts between both parties. Cryptocurrencies, he said, currently fulfill the same functions as money. Quote, a store of value, a unit of account, and a method of payment. However, Bitcoin is not inflationary, so it isn't possible for the Venezuelan central bank to manipulate its supply or to set an arbitrary value by decree, which is why Venezuela's government still needs a fiat currency. Crypto innovation out of necessity. During the last few months, Maduro's government has accelerated a plan to boost crypto adoption throughout the country, enabling an option for what could be a petro to fiat transfer module in the country's leading bank, and leaving open the possibility for users to link other cryptocurrencies. Owning Bitcoin and Ethereum as part of the national reserves could also be a way towards actually having a system where those cryptocurrencies are accepted across the nation. A user could make a payment to a wallet linked to a bank, and from there the recipient could easily exchange it for bolivars, or keep those bitcoins in the wallet as if it were a savings account. Without an official proclamation from the government, we are left to speculate. We still can't be certain that Venezuela's government is holding Bitcoin and Ethereum in its reserves. But, based on the current state of the country's economy and the rapidly depreciating bolivar, crypto reserves would be an upgrade. God damn right. And, it's like I said, this is exactly what I've been talking about with banks and governments getting into cryptocurrencies as just a hedge against their own units that they've got circulating right now. And it's just prudent investment. And I don't care who's doing it. You know, if it's you, if it's me, if it's the Venezuelan central bank, if it's Maduro himself. It's just a prudent move. You know, you've got a lot of uncertainty going on out there. And it's in those times when it really helps to diversify, because then when it comes down to it, when the transition hits full gear, and say it's in physical metals, if you've got physical metals on hand, you're golden, you're set. If it's cryptocurrencies, again, you're set. If it's fiat currencies, again, you're set. Diversify. Watch out for yourself. That's what these mediums allow for. You know, I mean, in some markets, physical cash is still king. In some markets, physical gold is still king. In some markets, cryptocurrency is still king. In some markets, you can only use Visa, MasterCard, some sort of Visa-backed debit card that's associated with your bank. But if you're in a digital era like now, having money in all of these mediums is just the best thing you can do for yourself. Again, if the interest ever changes to one, if the value of one seems to go up in relative terms versus others, you're still golden. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. And I've got some Five Finger Death Punch playing. And I only have one of their albums. And I don't know. I like some of it, but some of it's like, I don't know. It's good music. You know, I don't have any real complaints there. But I'm not necessarily in love with every single song. It's good sounding stuff, though. So here it is. Bulletproof. Here on Coin Metal. And that was Textures with New Horizons. Let me get a sip off the water. I spent the entire time flipping through all my tabs here trying to get everything straight. And of course, I failed at that too. Anyway. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back into some tabs here. And I found this one thing, and you know me, I love to get down on Mr. Wright as far as pointing out his silliness. And it's just because, you know, this really didn't need to happen. You know, he brought all of this on himself, and the fact that he did kind of it makes me understand that he probably wasn't even involved in this space at all until like 2014, because if he had been paying attention since early days, he would have been able to see what happened to Dorian Nakamoto, who happens to be kind of like a symbol here in Bitcoin and in cryptocurrencies in general. Is what it was. I think it was like 20 minutes or 20 or 60 minutes or one of these fucking shows or one of these magazines. I think it might have actually even been Newsweek. They tracked this guy in, I think he was in Northern California, and they tracked him down and claimed that he was Satoshi Nakamoto. And he had all kinds of shit raining down on him from, you know, people trying to get money out of him and whatnot. If that wasn't a clue of how toxic claiming that you're Satoshi Nakamoto is, I have no idea. I mean, like, why you would bother after seeing all that shit go down for this guy who was just misidentified as Satoshi Nakamoto, not even claiming to be Satoshi Nakamoto. And so it's like, after watching that, it's like, no, claiming to be Satoshi Nakamoto is probably not a good idea. But then, you know, in 2015 or 2016, he started kind of letting it slip to everybody. Oh yes, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. Yeah. Well, anyway, this is the part of the blowback of doing that, and so I wanted to follow it up. So this is on law.360 or law360.com. Wright ducks sanctions as $10 billion Bitcoin suit poised for trial. Law 360, June 24th, 2020 at 10:50 p.m. EDT. A Florida federal judge ruled Wednesday that she will not impose sanctions against self-styled Bitcoin inventor Craig Wright in a case over the ownership of potentially $10 billion worth of Bitcoin and intellectual property, saying that concerns of forged evidence, witness credibility, and Wright's intentions are best addressed by a jury. U.S. District Judge Beth Bloom denied a motion for sanctions brought by Wright's late business partner David Kleeman's estate after she struck similar sanctions last year. The Kleeman estate, led by David's brother Ira, sought default sanctions and said in its motion that Wright repeatedly lied under oath and forged various documents submitted in his defense, including a list of his purported Bitcoin holdings. Wright's ability to produce proof of his Bitcoin holdings has been a major point of contention in the bitter fight with the Kleeman estate over ownership of potentially billions of dollars in Bitcoin and intellectual property. Conversely, Wright argued that imposing default sanctions would deny him his day in court, adding that he had not set out to intentionally deceive the court, pointing to an autism diagnosis from a doctor whose testimony Kleeman has tried to block. Andres Rivero of Rivero Mestre LLP, counsel for Wright, told Law 360 that he hopes their psychology expert Amy Klin will be able to testify at trial. A date for trial was postponed to August 31st. Quote, "In this setting and based on the record presented, plaintiffs have not carried their burden to show that default sanctions are appropriate," Judge Bloom said. Quote, "Instead, they have laid the foundation for an overarching theme that defendant, a billionaire mathematician who stands to lose billions of dollars in the suit, has run a risk/benefit analysis to determine that forgery and perjury is, quote, an affordable and in fact efficient mechanism to fight this case." This case and arguments plaintiffs raise in this regard can be used to effectively persuade a jury, but they do not establish bad faith by clear and convincing evidence here, she said. Wright was sanctioned for similar behavior during the litigation in August of last year, when a magistrate judge ordered him to give up half of his Bitcoin holdings after he failed to comply with court orders. That ruling was later reduced by Judge Bloom to payment of Kleeman's attorney fees. Rivero told Law 360 that Judge Bloom's decision underscores that the factual issues in this case are, quote, plainly matters that are not black and white, which is how we've always felt. Essentially, what the judge is saying is there are real allegations and real defenses, and that's when you go to the jury as a fact finder, he added. Kleeman's estate sued Wright in February 2018 for up to 1.1 million Bitcoin, more than $10 billion, approximately, and intellectual property related to Bitcoin software, claiming that Wright has schemed to seize David Kleeman's Bitcoin ever since his death in 2013. According to the complaint, Wright forged documents to make it appear that David Kleeman signed away ownership of the company they co-founded in 2011, W&K Info Defense Research, LLC. The court acknowledges and certainly appreciates plaintiffs' frustrations based on the events delineated in the briefings, Judge Bloom said. However, These frustrations and doubts aside, significant factual disputes abound regarding the evidence presented, the role and importance of various pieces of evidence in the case, defendants' intentions, and the credibility of witnesses. Quote, these determinations and factual inferences and legal conclusions to be derived from them are best suited for a jury to make a fact finder at trial, not for the court to make, she said. Wright has called the suit, quote, a shakedown, and said the complaint is based on speculation and motivated by greed. He has said that Ira Kleeman tried to mine David Kleeman's hard drives after his death, only to find that any possible fortune hidden therein was encrypted and out of reach. Actually, the accusation is that Wright himself stole the physical drives and has been working on cracking them ever since. Continuing on. The core issue to be addressed at trial is whether there is, quote, an enforceable partnership agreement between Kleeman and Wright, Rivero said. Quote, we've wanted a jury trial all along, and we're very pleased that we're going to have the jury decide this. We think we have very strong evidence, and there was never a partnership as alleged. Counsel for Kleeman did not respond to requests for comment. The Kleeman estate and W&K Info Research are represented by Velvel Devin Friedman, Kyle W. Roche, and Joseph M. Delish, Constantine P. Economides, wow, and Stefan Lagos of Roche Cyrilunk Friedman LLP, and Andrew Brenner, Maxwell Pritt. Oh, Jesus Christ, a lot of fucking lawyers. Wright is represented by Andres Rivero, Amanda McGovern, and a whole bunch of other people that I'm not going to read off. And so, yeah, it's very, very interesting. I don't know that that this is going to work out for Mr. Wright. I don't think it really will. I think eventually, if he does go to a jury trial, the jury is going to determine that Mr. Wright is wasting their time and probably hammer down on him. You know, so yeah, I don't see it working out very well for him. You know, poor guy thought he could just wedge his way in there, claim he's Satoshi Nakamoto, and everybody's going to give him a bunch of money. Well, I don't think that's the case, Mr. Wright. And I'm sure that people have given him money, thinking that, and here's the thing, is that I think that he's been promising creditors that he has access to the 1 million Bitcoin, and he's been using it as collateral for other projects. And so at some point or another, these people are going to want their Bitcoin. And if they don't get it, there's probably not going to be any place that's really safe for him to hide. And what's funny to me is that when Craig Wright was talking about Bitcoin SV, he was saying, oh yeah, we're going to make it to where no illegal activity can happen on Bitcoin SV and all this other bullshit. Well, when people say that kind of thing, it reminds me of like a pastor who speaks out against gay people or whatever, and then next thing you know, you find him in a bathroom stall on his knees sucking somebody off. You know, and it's like, it's one of those things. It's like he might as well just put a big sign over his head saying, "I'm a scammer. I'm a liar. I will lie to you about lying to you." You know, I mean, it's like I said, you might as well just put it up in neon. But anyway, I got this next thing here, and this is a bit of a deviation, and I feel it's necessary because we keep hearing from these people that have made millions and billions of dollars in legacy markets, making comments about cryptocurrencies that don't really pass muster. And this one's on news.bitcoin.com. Jim Rogers discusses Bitcoin as money and why governments will stop crypto. And this is by Kevin Helms, and it was authored a day ago. So yes, penis. Jim Rogers, who co-founded the quantum fund with billionaire investor... co-founded, not confounded. Co-founded the quantum fund with billionaire investor George Soros, has shared his view on Bitcoin, its use as money, and government's response to the growing use of cryptocurrency. He predicts that central banks will not let uncontrolled money be used, as if they really have a choice. Famous investor Jim Rogers shared his prediction about the future of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in an interview with Asahi Shimbun Singapore branch manager Koji Nishimura, published on Friday. Rogers co-founded the Quantum Fund in 1973 with billionaire investor George Soros, which was considered one of the most successful hedge funds in its heyday. They earned a 4,200% return over 10 years through 1980, compared with 47% for the S&P 500. Roger believes that if cryptocurrency succeeds in being used as money instead of primarily for speculation, governments will intervene, making it illegal to stop its use. For this reason, quote, I believe that the value of virtual currencies represented by Bitcoin will decline and eventually become zero, he told the publication. It is hard for us to move money without the control of government, Rogers said, quote, elaborating, the government wants to know everything. Controllable electronic money will survive, and virtual currencies beyond the influence of government will be eliminated. I strongly doubt that. Rogers explained that cryptocurrency markets are volatile, particularly during the global economic crisis. Even though cryptocurrencies did not even exist a few years ago, in a blink of an eye they become 100 and 1,000 times more valuable. This is a clear bubble, and I don't know the right price, he opined, emphasizing that cryptocurrency is not an investment, but gambling. He proceeded to talk about electronic money, quote, governments like electronic money because with electronic money you can keep track of when, where, and who and how much, who spent and how much. Governments will have more control over people through electronic money. The investing guru describes, quote, electronic money has a low issuing cost. Cash can be printed, carried, and counted. It is expensive for the government. However, cryptocurrencies beyond the control of governments will not be as accepted as money, Rogers believes, adding that those who work on cryptocurrencies think they are, quote, smarter than the government. However, the government has something that those who work with virtual currencies don't have. It's a gun. For this reason, he said, quote, I believe that virtual currency will disappear eventually. He believes that governments will never let Bitcoin be used as money. Dude, you don't have any fucking choice. It's already happening. Quote, only 100 years ago, we could use whatever we liked as money. You could use coins, gold, silver, or shells. Banks could also print the bills themselves. That was legal. He was quoted as saying, however, in the mid-1930s, the Bank of England declared that using any type of money other than the money it issued was illegal. Rogers pointed out, as a result, quote, no one used money other than that issued by the Bank of England. That's not true at all. He described predicting that the same will happen to cryptocurrency, and he's completely wrong. While admitting that a society where governments, quote, know too much about our actions is unfavorable, he believes that cryptocurrency beyond the control of government will not be widely distributed as money. They're already global networks, dude. While Rogers is not bullish on cryptocurrency, many institutional investors are increasingly interested in investing in the asset class. Fidelity Digital Assets recently conducted a survey of about 800 institutional investors in Europe and the US and found that 80% of them find cryptocurrency appealing, while 60% feel that cryptocurrencies have a place in their portfolios. Grayscale Investment also sees increasing demand for crypto investments. And actually, I've got something on that too. Well-known hedge fund managers such as Paul Tudor Jones have been growing their Bitcoin holdings. Jones said he was about 2% of his assets in Bitcoin. Other billionaire investors who are also bullish on Bitcoin include Virgin Galactic Chairman Chamath Palihapitiya and Galaxy Digital CEO Mike Novogratz. Yeah, and let me see if there's any discussion on this one. Oh, there is, actually. Let's see what the comments are like here. The first one is by Bill. It says, it depends, because a hard money like Bitcoin, if it wins, then government will get smaller, and therefore the parasite known as government will get less demanding. Eric Fenningson says, he's responding to Bill. He says, I don't think you understand Jim's argument. What he points to is the government can just make payment with crypto illegal, and thereby making it obsolete. If you can't pay with crypto anywhere, it's not going to take over anything and will remain a niche. John the Apostle responds, alcohol was made illegal in the 1920s. It will be the same with crypto. Goddamn right. Eric Schwenningson says, because alcohol is the same as cryptocurrency, please elaborate on that. M.R. Mohan Rotha says, people will educate. They will keep dividing us to control. Bitcoin's people's money. I totally agree. Bitcoin is fighting the dinosaurs. Today it's evolved into chickens. Yeah, goddamn right. My damn feudal hope says, ravings of a fool. Just the fact that he is buddy with Soros says it all. When fiat currencies will be obsolete, crypto will be the way to go. More authoritarianism will lead to people wanting more liberty. Goddamn right. Eric Schwigananison says, you present a weak argument, and the tell is that you begin attacking the man personally, and he's claiming he's friends with Soros. It's called guilt by association. His main argument is that government can just make it illegal to pay with crypto. It's pretty easy since there are already laws that handle this, like the Coinage Act of 1965, blah, blah, blah. You could just make a new addendum that said it would be illegal to pay with a cryptocurrency other than issued by the Fed. That would effectively be the end of all cryptocurrencies other than the ones handled by national banks. No, wrong. Continuing on, the response here by Artem Abayev. In order for the government to pass something as illegal in today's day and age, they have to jump through a lot of hoops. And even then, the public will arc up about their freedoms being torn from them, especially in Western society. You can't just make something illegal just because it's counterproductive to fiat. Actually, they've tried to do that through the SEC with ICOs, and they've failed. They just switched the name to DeFi and have continued on. When the Fed prints money like it does now, it doesn't leave much to process for the average person. If Bitcoin or any other decentralized currency ever takes off, it will be because the cryptocurrency or electronic cash offered by the government didn't provide the financial freedom the public demands. Goddamn right. Eric Schwigananison says nobody will care if the government made it illegal to pay with crypto besides from a handful of people who own Bitcoin. Crypto is really niche, and if the Fed launches a new digital dollar in a year or two, the government will at the same time forbid the use of crypto and nobody will notice. They can always blame it on Bitcoin being used to fund terrorism or something like that. I'm not cheering for it because I hate the idea of government digital currency, but I think it's what will happen, and I don't see why it wouldn't happen like that. Oh, I do. Because the fact of the matter is that if they really had this card to play, they would have played it in 2009, but they didn't, and it's because they don't have it. Let me see here. Next one is by Dropship I/O. He just admitted that governments are criminals and were not voluntarily placed into power by the people for the people. In the war of Armageddon, I and millions of other people will be anonymously funding the destruction of said governments with crypto and other decentralized technologies. Mark my words. Eric Schwigananison says, really, would you agree that crypto is just a carrier of value like fiat currency? Yes. If you agree, then you would probably also agree that the amount of value per unit of crypto/currency determined by some prime factors, where some key factors are usefulness and credibility, right? For instance, if the currency has to be seen as credible and secure, so you don't think you'll lose money in that currency. And you would also have to be able to use the currency like to pay for foods and goods. The government can determine which currencies are legal tender in a given country. If the US and the EU determines that non-state cryptocurrency is illegal tender, then what do you suppose happens to the value of those currencies? They will go up through the fucking roof, and governments will be the leading investors in them. John the Apostle says China outlawed crypto in the not-so-distant past. The people of China saw that they might lose their wealth if things went south. They moved bajillions of dollars out of the country with Bitcoin, which caused a surge in the Bitcoin price. China is plenty efficient in controlling their internet. After all, they had Gaggle and Micrograft helping them. They were unable to stop the capital flight. And this is true. It is absolutely true. And the fact of the matter is that capital flight consists of them too. And this is something that this guy Eric Schwigananison and Jim Rogers do not understand. Government officials, on a personal and collective basis, are invested in these markets. It is counterproductive for them. It is unprofitable for them to be investing in writing up legislation that will make it illegal. It's unprofitable. And besides, they'll go fucking broke trying to enforce the shit. Let's see. Dropship.io says, I do business in crypto with countries where it is illegal all the time. Legality is irrelevant. Governments don't have the power to stop a crypto transaction or a sale on Open Bazaar. Goddamn right. Eric Schwigananison says that's not really a good case for crypto if all it can be used for is some transaction in third world countries. What matters is if you can buy something on it on Amazon and in your local supermarket, or even buy a house with it. If the government forbids payment in crypto, then it's dead, other than for some shady and or niche business. And he's got actually a downvote for that. And Dropship responds with, Obi is filled with Amazon listings and grocery products. I myself sell Amazon products to U.S. customers from a third world country location. I am currently working on providing an Instacart service alternative. There's nothing governments can do to stop it, as the activity cannot be traced back to a single individual. Everyone is complicit, including, without realizing it, including Amazon. That's right. Absolutely right. Where's RBG says, Jim, wrong. Right. Now, let's see here. JB Andelin says, certainly governments would like to outlaw Bitcoin. Most governments would want to control everything in people's lives. The question is, can governments outlaw Bitcoin? Making payments with crypto illegal would not stop Bitcoin from being a store of value. At the moment, Bitcoin is not valuable because it is used as currency. Even if it is never used for direct payment of anything, it is a decentralized, non-inflatable, and non-seizable store of value. Socialists can rant ad nauseum about losing control of people's money, but there's really nothing they can do to stop people from having it and trading it. The world doesn't begin and end with the US dollar. Bitcoin is in hundreds of countries and is traded by millions of people. People can sit on their ivory towers and imagine it will go to zero. I fail to see a plausible scenario how that could happen. Goddamn right, John. And it's true. You are the market. You're what gives shit value. And I mean, if somebody told you tomorrow, that we're going to tax every transaction you do with your ATM card 6%. Whatever it is, we're going to add 6%. We're going to take that out of your transaction and put it in our pocket. If somebody were to say that to you, then the cost of transacting in US dollars via your credit card would become too unwieldy for you to use. It would have become too expensive for you to use versus other options. And when you start looking at Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies in that light, and you start saying to yourself, well, instead of paying the government 6% that they don't fucking deserve on a transaction that I'm conducting with another private individual, we could just use this other medium here that the government isn't capable of assessing that 6% tax on, and they can go fuck themselves, and we can continue to do our business sans their participation. And these rules don't change, regardless of who's holding it and who's conducting the transactions, who's holding on to the value. It doesn't change. It's like a gun. And this is where Jim Rogers misses it. Okay, the importance of a gun is that if I'm holding it, I can use it. And if I pull the trigger and the bullet hits somebody, it's going to kill them, just regardless of who they are. If I hit him in an essential region of their body with a significantly large enough round, it's going to fucking kill them. It'll fucking kill anybody. 44 Magnum, gonna fucking kill anybody. Period. Bitcoin is the same way. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care what you do. It doesn't care what religion you have or what's between your legs, what's between your ears. All that shit's irrelevant. Do you have the money? Send me the money. I'll give you the stuff. That's that. It's more of that streamlining going on. We're streamlining out of several government entities, several corporate entities, several finance entities, all in one shot. And of course, they're all pissed about it. And of course, they're all going to talk a bunch of shit about it. But, unlike a lot of other options before, they are already invested in this shit. The quote-unquote institutional involvement in crypto, that happened a long time ago. They've been here since like 2012, 2013. When it became known that you could exchange monetary value from one person to another via this medium, that was it. Off to the races. Everybody got involved. Governments got involved. Finance got involved. Everybody got involved. You got involved. I got involved. But it's just like a gun. It kill you just as dead. You can lose it just as certainly. You can waste it just as certainly. You can make a valuable transaction just as certainly. And with that being true, and it's not just true for you, it's true for everybody else too. Again, this is a great leveler. Okay, this is a leveling of the playing field. Cannot racially discriminate against you, cannot regionally discriminate against you. You're a Monero user, you're a Litecoin user, you're a Dogecoin user, you're a Verge user, you're a Bitcoin user. These don't have a national affiliation. They don't have a national delineation. If somebody's able to do a transaction with you, that transaction will happen. And I don't believe that this means the end of the nation states or the end of central banks or the necessity for a creation of a CBDC or any of that other bullshit. It's just an introduction of a new means of exchanging monetary value. That's it. Now, it's the differences, though, that make a difference. The level of control you have. The level of say you have. These are all much higher under cryptocurrencies. And so I think that, when enough people do understand that about cryptocurrencies, they will represent a significant threat to existing systems. Enough so that either the existing systems will adapt or they will fall back. And I've talked about a multitude of ways that they will adapt on this show. And that thing that we covered earlier about Venezuela holding Bitcoin and Ethereum, that just exemplifies what I'm talking about here. That these countries are going to start competing for being the best places to transact cryptocurrencies, to be the best place to conduct financial transactions, to be the best place to set up your mining operations. They're going to shoot to create better internet networks that have less interference and are more secure from things like DDoS attacks. And they're going to do it twofold. Number one, it'll be people like you investing in that too. You will be communicating directly to government organizations and other corporate entities and saying, hey, we all need these networks. So what are the general principles that we need to make our networks secure for ourselves and all of our customers? And it's worth it to do. The more secure it is, the better people feel about using it as a means of transacting, the more they will use it. But this is an open range. There's no borders here saying that new players can't come in. And so the idea of upstarts coming in and disrupting the shit, it's going to happen. There's no choice about it. All that we've achieved here in cryptocurrencies started on hardware that was viable in like 2004. That's when most of it was made. So the fact that we were able to establish these networks on hardware that old, back in 2009, almost 11 years ago now, it's indicative of how significant and how powerful this shit really is. And so when we're looking at, are we going to go in reverse and get rid of all of this? No. There's been way too much money invested in it already. Now, I think we're going to have a bit of a .com bubble, but I think it's also going to be corresponded with a new kind of explosion of cryptocurrencies coming out, altcoins coming out. And it's going to be people like you and me that are going to be authoring them. It's going to be people like you and me that are the miners on them. And we are going to compete on a global scale with all of these other cryptocurrencies that are existing. It's going to happen. I watched it happen once already on Twitter between like 2014 and 2017 was just utter fucking chaos. Utter fucking chaos. And specifically between 2014 and 2016, there was just fucking altcoins coming out all the time. And I don't doubt that there's still a significant volume of them coming out every year. But whether or not they retain any volume of, any hashing power, any real interest, that's... We see them coming onto exchanges. And that's probably the best that can be said for them, is that they are continuing to come on to altcoin exchanges, and that kind of exemplifies the fact that people are still going for it out there. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. And I don't know, I always like the title of this, I Ejaculate Fire by Death Clock, here on Coin Metal. And that was Doyle with Dreaming Dead Girls. And so, I've got a couple tabs left open. I think we can get it to at least one of them. And, I always find it funny that these guys, the supposed influencers here in crypto, they think that their name being associated with something is instantly going to lend it some sort of like credibility, and to some extent it does, but that only reflects the social nature of money and other monetary vehicles, and not necessarily that there's some intrinsic value with these individuals or imbued in whatever project they're pimping. And so I got this one here. It's on Cointelegraph.com. It's by Joshua Mapperson. So yes, penis. Tim Draper backed DeFi project DMM up 2 times, or 2x rather, despite issue-plagued sale. Lending platform DeFi Money Market, DMM, backed by Tim Draper's Draper Venture Network, has had a difficult birth. The initial DEX offering, IDO, has completed successfully, raising $6.5 million in 48 hours, but investors reported problems with completing transactions, a confusing interface, or raised trust issues around the company's background. Separately, Telegram scammers made off with $40,000 from users trying to buy, although DMM kindly made up for the lost tokens, and there were claims of privacy problems. Despite the issues, DMM's DMG token is currently trading at 87 cents, over double the initial sale price of 36 cents. DMG has also had the highest trading volume on Uniswap in the past 24 hours, with $4.8 million being traded against Ethereum. What is DMM? The DMM project offers 6.25% interest rates on Ethereum, DAI, and USDC, backed by real-world assets. According to the website, the assets are actually $8.8 million worth of cars owned by Finova Financial, the CEO of which is also a partner in DMM. One independent cryptocurrency researcher claimed to have identified multiple instances where personal data was not properly redacted from records provided about... provided about DMM's underlying assets. Quote, despite the project's attempt to remove all private info, 18 of the documents still have the verification code through which you can find additional information. The purchaser of these vehicle records is Finova Financial. One of DMM's partner is the CEO of this company. And that was by Frank Topbottom, Frank Researcher, June 24th, 2020. A series of unfortunate events. The user complaints, Telegram scammers, and vague air of chaos emphasizes the many similarities between the DeFi boom and the ICO boom in 2017. Shortly after the sale started, Twitter users started complaining about swap errors, with one anonymous user reporting Ethereum being taken from their wallet despite seeing failed transactions and not receiving any DMG tokens. Quote, I tried to buy from the sale page, transaction failed through the Ethereum wrapping process, ETHs were taken from my account, but I still have no DMM/ETH tokens in my balance. Is there anyone I can get in touch with to send TX details and sort this out? An anonymous 4chan user shared their outrage on the, quote, poorly run public sale, threatening legal action over the sale after losing money due to a confusing interface. Scammers be scammin'. DMM also revealed in a post that their Telegram channel had been infiltrated by, quote, malicious actors who scammed users out of $40,000 worth of Ethereum. However, the team stated they had sent every victim the respective amount of DMG tokens they should have received. DMM announced the closure of the sale, stating, quote, funds raised will be used to grow the DMM ecosystem and bring even more revenue-generating real-world assets on-chain and into DeFi. I think that Mr. Draper should probably hire a few lawyers, because costing people money when they're trying to invest with you is generally bad. I mean, that's shit that you should have hammered out previous to your release. And you know, this is one of a myriad of other issues that you get rid of totally if you do not ask people's money for your initial coin offering. If you want to do an ICO, you do it the way that the original altcoin founders did it, where you start up various mechanisms, you know, instant messages, email, chat rooms, and you set up a chatbot that allows people to tip one another within your channel. And of course, you have to be extra diligent about the way you set it up, because people will try and hack it if it's worth anything. But it is possible to set things up to where you can tip people in your coins and just distribute them that way. Just fucking give people your coins. Say, hey, this is the code. Download it if you want to mine on our network. This is the coin we're mining. Here, have some of it. This is a vendor that's willing to accept them as payment. When you can say these things to people, that draws interest. You know, and if it's a vendor that can handle products that people are willing to sell, that again draws even more interest. But, you know, promising that your funds are going to be exchanged for US dollars or some other cryptocurrency, or it's a fucking waste of time. It's a waste of your time. Don't even bother. Anyway, I got this next one here. It's on Coindesk.com. Singapore begins crackdown on unlicensed Bitcoin sellers. And this is authored June 24th, 2020 at 2028 UTC. And this is by Danny Nelson, so yes, penis. Singapore authorities charged 23-year-old woman with breaking the city-state's ban on unlicensed Bitcoin sales on Wednesday. The woman allegedly bought 3,350 Singapore dollars, about $2,400 US, in Bitcoin on late February 2020, using funds the police say came from the proceeds of an online scam. The Straits Times identified the woman as a Singaporean national named Lang Vivian, and stated that Lang was associated with a loan shark named, quote, Boss. The charges appear to be the first instance of Singapore enforcing its updated digital currency regulations. Under the Payment Services Act of 2019, all so-called, quote, digital payment token service providers must receive licensure from the state. The Monetary Authority of Singapore introduced the law in late January. Singaporean police said Lang did not have a license, nor was she exempt from having one. They did not give details of the alleged crime beyond claiming that Lang committed it, quote, on the instruction of an unknown person in return for a commission. Lang faces a maximum penalty of $125,000 Singapore, roughly $88,000 in fines and 3 years imprisonment for violating the Payment Services Act, according to a press release from the Singapore police. Lang faces additional, though apparently unrelated, charges for acting on behalf of a loan shark, according to the Straits Times, which pointed out that those charges come with a caning penalty for men. Yeah, so somebody thought ahead and asked a woman to do it. I wonder if there's going to be the same caning penalty. But yeah, it just exemplifies what I've said a multitude of times, that no matter how much they squeeze like this, the monetary flight is going to happen. You know, and again, they're trying to get ahead of it already by not assigning a male to be their courier or the last line intermediary. And this demonstrates pre-planning, okay? That they're that much ahead of the curve, that there may be a severity a severity differential between what they would issue a man and what they would issue a woman. And we're going to find out if that gambit pays off. But yeah, I think in the longer term that the level of investigation that was required in order to bust this one person was far in excess of A, what the exchanges were actually worth, and B, what the fees are worth. This $88,000, that's not going to cover all the man hours for the police. That's not going to cover all the man hours for all the legal team that's going to be involved in the court case. And again, these are extraneous costs that if they just left it the fuck alone, they would not incur. As a matter of fact, they wouldn't have even incurred the cost for investigating this person up to date. But no, they got to try and be in control of everything, and so they're going to end up bankrupting themselves in this effort. And cryptocurrencies, with the low level of friction that's actually required in order to transact them, is only going to compound this issue. Because while we are not experiencing these fees and we are not experiencing these regulatory frameworks and all the taxation and all the licensure and all that other bullshit, everybody else is. And those people are going to be paying for the investigatory efforts that are being put forth in trying to bust people like Ms. Lang. And because the amount of business that Ms. Lang was conducting and the monetary cost in chasing after her and all that, the tax burden and the collection burden, the enforcement burden, is going to be so far in excess of the actual payoff that people just aren't going to fucking do it. The mayors are going to be saying, you know, this is actually costing us more in potential revenue just from people coming here, just from associated sales that don't have anything to do with their crypto business. It's costing us so much of that it's cost prohibitive to even bother. Quit bothering. Yeah, I know. I'm sure I sound like a broken record communicating that message over and over and over again, but I'm going to keep saying it because eventually everybody's going to fall in line just like Mr. Maduro has, where they're going to recognize the differential in ROI between trying to hammer down on it and simply enjoying the fees and taxation they can apply when one is transitioning from crypto to fiat. And really, that is the only place where they should be bothering to try and tax it at all. Because we're moving from one set of roads to another. You know, they don't do any of the code for these currencies. They don't make the decision, the final decision as to whether or not you're going to mine them or not. Nothing they provide to us is of any real value at this point, except for maybe resolution of contractual issues. But like I said, eventually the cost of trying to regulate crypto in the same fashion that you would do so in fiat is going to represent such a big bump in cost that most people just aren't going to engage in it. It'll represent too much of a loss on their own part because of the cost that they would have to be trying to pass off to their users. They will have other competitors that aren't doing that. They aren't incurring those costs. And because they're not, they're making more money. Well, everybody wants to make more money, and so the organizations that are cutting themselves out via their policies will cut themselves back in because they want to make the money too. It's really simple. It's very, very simple. Anyway, it is with that I'd like to bring this episode to a close. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And so as far as our last dance is concerned, I haven't picked anything out here, but I do have a song, and I think this one is appropriate because I believe in the end it will apply to all of those that are grasping so desperately at crypto, trying to put a leash on it, trying to put reins on it, trying to tax it or fit it into some sort of regulatory framework that it wasn't made for. And so here it is, Metallica, Fade to Black, Last Dance, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.